Welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Bud Elliott. That's Tom Fornelli. I'm Chip Patterson, coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and all across the 24/7 Sports Facebook network. It is 11:29 on the East Coast. We've got Clemson still in action, kind of running away with things, 48-20 against Louisiana Tech. Texas looks dicey for a minute there for Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns, but it is 38-20, and it is 17-6 late in the third quarter. Texas A&M in Miami. I mean, I don't know why you're putting thumbs down, Tom. It
Mario
does mean
kicking that field goal.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I know that field goal decisions are always going to get graded here on the Cover 3 podcast, but they will be applauded when we have a lock infinity on the under of 44.5. So at least that is able to go. So much to get to. This was an incredibly busy week 3. We had an unbelievable ending in Boone. We had some near upsets, including Bobby Petrino trying to ride off into the sunset in Fayetteville, Arkansas, without a helmet, and he crashed eventually. But the good on Arkansas and being able to take care of business right there. Florida, it got dicey with USF, all up and down the top 25. Lots of interesting results. The one game between ranked teams that we did not even mention on the Locks pod provided a good bit of content for us to dig in on. We had amazing turn of events in DeKalb, which I'm sure we will get to. But I guess since we are here in the moment, do we want to at least grade the beginning of Miami, Texas A&M for just a split second before we get on to the results that were? I mean, it's a live instant reaction show. Chat's popping right now. Subscribe at youtube.com/cover3 if you want to join the conversation. Thoughts so far on what we're seeing from Texas A&M?
They look a little bit better than they did with Haynes King. Max Johnson
They
is
still
able
stink,
to.
though.
Sure, yeah. I mean, look. They're not playing good offense, but they're not just completely inept on offense. They can do a couple things. They can run this little freeze counter play. They're running. Max Johnson can capably throw all these really, really short West Coast routes that they want to run. I mean, I'm sure maybe while I'm talking, they'll dial up a shot play 3rd and 2 here from midfield, but they look competent-ish but like if it was anybody else's offense, you'd be like, this is terrible. But given what offense this is, you're like, okay, yeah, this is about what it's supposed to look like, right? So
as we sit here now, the two quarterbacks in this game are combined 19 for 40. This game sucks. Let's be real.
And, so what was the best game of the day that you saw so far? What was the one game that stood out where you were like, that was the good stuff right there? That was a highly competitive or highly entertaining game. What was the best game of the day so far?
I mean, I didn't see all of it, but obviously you talked about the App State-Troy game. I saw the ending to that game, and that was really fun. I thought the South Florida game, I don't know if I would call it good, but it was interesting. I saw none of Wake Liberty, but that appears to have been a pretty decent game. Other than that, I mean, Syracuse-Purdue, I think, was probably the most fun I had watching a football game all day. And the ending was just ridiculous. Just dumb penalties all over the place and everybody, both from the players' perspective and the referee's perspective. It just completely altered the end of that game. But yeah, just for sheer idiocy and entertainment factor, Syracuse-Purdue was the game of the day for me.
I missed part of that, about the first 50 minutes or so. What did I miss? I did see the end. I was at a 3-year-old's birthday party at Build-A-Bear. So that was really, really thrilling.
Did you get any win total picks? Because the last time I was at a 3-year-old's birthday party, got that Carolina sweet over 7.5. It's looking pretty good with Notre Dame coming down.
I did not pull any win total picks. No, I was sweating UCLA for a little bit. So that was interesting. No, Tom, what happened in this thing?
Well, it was kind of like, oh, go ahead, Chip.
Well, I was going to say the penalty thing happened throughout the entire game.
That
was
there were 20 penalties in this game.
Yeah, the only way that either team was sustaining offensive drives was by the all PI offense. Anything you could do to draw penalties on the defense to be able to extend a drive, nothing was working. And even when Purdue was having some offensive success with Aiden O'Connell, they weren't able to punch it in. They weren't able to run the ball at all. I think that one of my biggest takeaways is that Syracuse's defense, for all that we made about Robert and I, and how fun it was going to be with Garrett Schrader and Sean Tucker and this creative offense, like that just might have been a Louisville defense issue. And this might have been a situation where Syracuse's defense is actually the real deal. I don't know. We don't have to sit on that too much, but I will say, to answer your question, Bud, the both teams being dumb was the only way that either team was having any success for most of the game. And Garrett Schrader was not great pushing the ball down the field, but he delivered like the one pass that you needed in a perfect spot to be able to hit that game winner. I don't know, Tom.
Yeah, like
fair?
Cliff note version of the fourth quarter. Like Syracuse was up 18-15. Aiden O'Connell on a 1st and 10 is being tackled as there's pressure. He's getting tackled. And on a 1st and 10, for some reason, Aiden O'Connell decides, I need to throw this ball. I can't just take this sack or, whatever. He's like, no, this is like a do or die situation. So as he's being dragged to the ground, he flings the ball right into the waiting arms of the defensive lineman 3 yards in front of him, who then takes it 17 yards for a pick 6, makes it a 25-15 game with just like 8 minutes left. You're thinking, okay, that's the game. Aiden O'Connell just blew this. And then bang, like 2 minutes later, he's chucking a 55-yard bomb to Charlie Jones, who somehow, some way manages to keep getting open behind everybody's secondary this year. And just thinking what Iowa was doing, not using him at all because it didn't have a quarterback capable of throwing the ball that far. He catches the 55-yard touchdown. So now it's a game again. Purdue gets the ball back in the final minute. They drive down the field, 12-yard touchdown to take a 29-25 lead, get a bunch of penalties for like unsportsmanlike conducts and stuff. So they got to kick off from like the 10. So Syracuse gets incredible field position after the kick. They move down the field in 44 seconds to score with 7 seconds left to win the game.
I mean, I saw a lot of pre-snap penalties, which
really,
it really only told me, I mean, like, especially when Purdue was having pre-snap penalties, that you know why it was? It's because the signal was great in the JMA wireless dome. It's because the dome, listen, you listening right now on Sunday morning, you're asking for it. We talked about Syracuse. We got Jake in the chat. He's asking for it. We got Mark in the chat. He's asking for it. You knew that when Syracuse improved to 3-0 on a day like today, you were going to get it.
Close your eyes. Visualize this. You're in the Carrier Dome. The house is filled. The feeling is electric. The noise is deafening. You have a defense that is relentless. You have a special teams that has been well coached. You have an
block an extra point
that will not huddle. And you have a game that's faster than you've ever seen on turf. Open your eyes. That's going to be a reality. That's going to be Syracuse football.
No joke, but I'm suddenly like, why the hell does Bud have his eyes closed? I forgot the part where Dino.
I've never closed my eyes. Like I got to try this one time. If Syracuse wins again, we need to
open your eyes. Yeah, I mean it was a day that was great for the podcast, but we can dive more into that just a little bit later. So we've got Georgia in an absolute blowout of South Carolina. Any notes?
You know what that game made me think about, honestly? Just watching how inept South Carolina's offense was. There's always the stupid, like, could this college football team beat the worst NFL team? And I'm watching that game and I'm thinking, all right, Georgia's defense is the closest thing that we have to an NFL defense at the college level. And if that's what a college offense is capable of doing against that defense, what is the best, what's Alabama going to do against an NFL defense? So it's just, I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what I thought about, because it felt like I was watching a college team play an NFL team.
You were.
So, Tom basically said it there on the Georgia defensive side. They were just relentless. I mean, you have guys who don't get in until late fourth quarter. I'm like, man, I remember that guy was like a 5-star, and they're just stacked up there, and the intensity that Georgia plays with looks like how Bama's defense used to look. When Kirby was there, when Nick had some of those crazy defenses. Like, I bet you their practices are among the most physical in the country. Now, apparently Nebraska's were very, very physical this week, which they just ran out of hits, I guess. And we'll hit that in a second. But yeah, Georgia's defense looked absolutely insane. Stetson Bennett looked, I think, awesome, just accurate, totally in control. The thing that really stood out to me here was, I mean, Todd Monken, guys, is doing a great job with that personnel. They didn't have A.D. Mitchell, right? They're still waiting on some other receivers to get back. Arik Gilbert, did he play today?
No.
I mean, like, so Georgia, like, the guys they do have are really good, but they don't have their full complement of weapons. And Stetson's totally in control of that offense. Monken does a great job calling it. And South Carolina, let's point this out, had a ton of defensive injuries. They lost Strahan, they lost Kava last week. It was also revealed that Smith, who is one of the best, very best corners in the entire country, didn't play with a concussion. Then they lose another guy to an injury. I think they lost a guy to a targeting. And then immediately they're like, oh, we got a true freshman third-string safety in this game. Over the top, 70-yarder to Brock Bowers. That's really I went back and watched. That's when I turned this on. I was like, oh, okay. Like, I saw the guy go down. Touchdown Bowers on a long shot. If they played the playoff tomorrow, which they don't, Georgia would win. Pretty sure.
Oh, the whole, like, if Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and Michigan, Tom Fornelli's college football playoff, were to go down tomorrow, you think Georgia wins?
Yeah.
All right, so let me follow it up. I would say that Bowers is the MOP. Well, I don't know if we do MOP, but like
the one touchdown catch he had along the sideline, God. He had the one over the middle where he just broke like 50. Yeah, no, he had the one where he caught the pass over the middle and broke like 4 tackles and then ran for 40 yards. But that one where he caught in the back on the sideline was just incredible.
That's the thing, is I think he's the most unguardable pass catching threat that is in college football right now. That dude is a problem, and that's very exciting. I'm not going to overreact because Georgia does look like the best team in the country as they are ranked properly. Running the ball. How do we feel about Georgia running the ball? Do they need to? It's the modern offense. It's the modern game, right? As long as Stetson Bennett is efficient, as long as we can work the ball to our tight ends and hit enough plays through the passing game, it's not a big deal. But on like a down-to-down basis, your run-of-the-mill run plays aren't exactly popping like they have been in years past with the Georgia Bulldogs. Is there any reason for concern?
It could be later in the season against better teams. I mean, they averaged 6 yards per carry today. It's just a lot of that came from Stetson Bennett, Carson Beck. If you take the quarterback yardage out of there, that average drops a little bit. They had the one play to Ladd McConkey. I think he picked up 13 yards. So, yeah, the running backs aren't really finding a ton of space. So that could be a concern, but it's not a huge concern to me right now because I think that is part of the reason they're having so much success in the passing game.
Look, every team out there has something to work on right now. Okay. Ohio State tonight didn't handle quarterback mobility. That's probably going to be your only Ohio State note, right? But like they did allow some scores there as Fenn was running around for Toledo. Alabama clearly has a lot of passing game stuff to work on, and Georgia needs to work on its run game a little bit. Although I'm not really concerned. I think the question is more ceiling of this passing game. When those guys get back, how do they use them? If they get in situations where they have to play from behind, play action maybe not quite as effective, that type of stuff. They're the number one team for me right now. They look great.
All right, let's talk about the number 6 team in the polls that I think will be moving into the top 5, given a slow start for the Clemson Tigers and given the impressive win for the Oklahoma Sooners. So Oklahoma goes into Nebraska. This thing opens up at circa at 16 and gets bet very quickly down all the way to 11, flirted with a little 10 and a half. And you look up at halftime and it's 35-7. Nebraska has scored on its opening scripted drive, and then that Brent Venables defense entirely shut out the Cornhuskers until it was Chuba Purdy. Yeah, until Chuba Purdy comes in garbage time. Chuba Purdy comes in garbage time and gets a late touchdown with about 3 minutes left. But basically everything in between that first drive for Nebraska and garbage time was all Oklahoma, both sides of the ball. They ran the ball well. Eric Gray finishes with 113 yards and 2 scores on 11 carries. Dylan Gabriel finishes with 230 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. There is Nebraska's defense is what they thought we were, what we thought they were. But there's also, I think, some Oklahoma to this where they stepped up into an interesting situation with a lot going on, a team that was dealing with a coach that was just fired, and they took care of business. I come away from this impressed with Oklahoma, and it's not just because of the point spread and the way that they covered it with ease, but also just because of the manner with which they dispatched of Nebraska. Sometimes to me, those sorts of things can mean a lot. And I thought that Oklahoma looked very, very good in a way that is incredibly encouraging if you're an Oklahoma fan.
Agree. Yes. So Oklahoma looked really good to me. Venables is letting Levy run the offense that he wants to run, which was a question for me. Like, would he do that? But his mentor, Bob Stoops, also let Mike Leach, when he hired him, I don't know if you guys, this is kind of a paint us as old heads type moment here, but if you guys recall, when Bob Stoops got hired at Oklahoma, he was told, hey, go hire the guy who drives you nuts when you face him. And Stoops was the DC with the Gators. And he did not like facing a guy named Mike Leach, who was the OC for Kentucky. Now, Florida whipped Kentucky, but it was still a pain to play him. So that appears to be what Venables did, right? He went out and hired the guy who he used to hate facing when Levy was at Baylor back in the day, when Venables was the DC there at Oklahoma. And he is letting him run the offense like he wants to run it. And that means they're going to score a whole lot of points on most everybody. It's sort of the Tennessee principle. That offense is kind of a cheat code if you run it in college football against most teams. Nebraska's defense, however, guys, that's the reason I fought Danny on the pick. I mean, I was going to just throw it out as one of my own picks, but I was really anxious to fight him because I was like, it's not a motivational issue. And I don't think it's a coaching issue. Like Chenander last year, I thought did a really good job. They just don't have the dudes this year. Northwestern pushed those guys around and made them look slow. Georgia Southern dropped, 47 in Lincoln? I was like, if Oklahoma wants 50, they can get it.
Yeah, no, that was just a domination. Like you said, Chip, Nebraska comes out with a really great opening drive, and then they probably just kind of wish the game ended there because everything after that was just 100% Oklahoma. Sooners are good. Like, you look at the Big 12, you just look at what's been happening around in that conference and some of the games and teams that lost today, like Kansas State losing to Tulane, Texas Tech loses to NC State, Texas was struggling with UTSA, Baylor losing to BYU last week. It's like it's like you think Oklahoma at this point, you have to think it's the absolute best team in that conference by a long shot right now. I guess you could still throw Oklahoma State in there. You could throw Kansas in there, I suppose, with their 3 wins. But I don't know. That's just like, I don't see that team losing more than once this year. If it loses, I feel like that's a legit playoff contender right now. And also the second most impressive thing from that game besides Oklahoma was Joel Klatt, who at halftime, I don't know if you guys were watching because the game was over by that. Gus Johnson did not do the second half of this game. Joel Klatt had to transfer from, color to play-by-play and doing it all on his own. And then eventually he was joined by Brady Quinn and Urban Meyer and other guys. But that's really hard to do. And Joel Klatt's one of my favorites in the booth these days. So for him to be able to do that, I was like, that was one of the most impressive things I saw all day.
Listen, love Joel Klatt. I agree with you. I enjoy him, but I've heard that man give so many soliloquies on his opinions on college football that I was like, I get it. We gave you more space and you were ready to fill it. He's done a lot of the solo one shots where it's like, here's my 2.5 minute opinion on the college football playoff. And so the fact that he was ready to step, hey, listen, I'm a blowhard, right? I can step, clip that. That'll be a good one. Like, you give me all that airspace, I'm going to be able to fill it. Like, I've sat there and I've done the one-man show on the radio and done 3 hours. It's possible if you've got the words, and I think that Joel Klatt's got the words. But yeah, I'm with you. And then the Urban Meyer thing was just incredible. Like, I joked with our editor today. I was like, why didn't we fire up a Nebraska-Oklahoma live blog that just, like, in the headline says, Urban Meyer watches on as the Scott Frost coaching search begins? Like, we want Urban chants during the pregame show. We're even putting Urban Meyer in the booth. Message board geniuses, I've gotten a good laugh out of them recently. Like, they were clipping the message boards. Like, it's like, Urban Meyer is meeting with Trev Alberts right now, as if you're not maybe going to meet with him regardless. But, oh, that's so good. I guess, hold on. Urban Meyer, Nebraska job. Urban Meyer, Nebraska job. Make sure it's in the transcript and all of the SEO. I love that it haunted the day. And I'm so sorry for Nebraska fans that it did. I mean, is Nebraska going to hire Urban Meyer?
I don't know who they're going to hire. I do not think they're going to hire Urban Meyer. Just guessing.
Do you think they're going to try?
I know who they're going to try to hire, or who they should hire. I don't want them to hire him.
Brett Bielema?
No.
Lance Leipold. Okay, Kansas. Let's go.
All right, let's go.
Rank them.
Rank them.
3-0.
Wins against Texas Tech.
No. They won their opener against some FCS team, and then they beat West Virginia on the road last week, and they beat Houston on the road today. And they're, like, legitimately good. They have not been fluky wins. Like, defensively, they still have some holes, although they played pretty well today, I thought, for the most part, against Houston. But offensively, they are hard to stop. Now, once they get into, like, playing Oklahoma and some other better teams, maybe they're not going to be able to do what they were doing the last couple of weeks. But offensively, they pose problems, man. They put you in situations where you have to make a decision, and you make the wrong decision, and it's a 30-yard pickup. And teams are making the wrong decisions, and they're not filling the gaps. They're getting out of their run fits. It's the strangest thing when I watch Kansas, and I saw the same things at Buffalo when Lance Leipold was there. The offenses that they run, they do some sort of voodoo magic to get defenses out of their fits with ease. They do it constantly. And it was happening again today. Just whole 30 yards, 20 yards, 15 yards, time and time again. They are a good team.
They're really well coached. The thing is, like, they also know exactly what they're looking for when they motion you. And when they see it, like, they hit it. They're not dropping back like, hey, let's read all 5 of these. Like, no, we run this motion for this reason. We understand why we do it, right? We run this shift for this reason, and we're going to look and we're going to find that hole in your defense. And, like, they would put up points on almost anybody they play. Like, not at Georgia, not somebody that's going to just pick up their line of scrimmage and relocate it. But against most decent defenses, Kansas is going to score at this point, I think. Man, that was – and Houston just falling apart. Like, that was
I mean, their run defense had been bad in their first few games. That was one of the reasons why I was so high on Kansas this weekend against them. I didn't think they were going to win again, but that's on me. I should have seen that coming. But yeah, their run defense has been bad all season, and it was evident again today. So just clarify, Kansas finished with 280 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, 6.5 per carry. Jalen Daniels, 123 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. He also threw 3 touchdowns to 158 yards. They can get you any way they want to get you.
Now, since you said rank them, do we want to discuss what these polls should look like tomorrow?
Coming up on the other side, do we think Kansas will be ranked in the AP Top 25 on Sunday? We'll get into that and one of the best calls on the radio that you had all day Saturday, and so much more from a busy week 3. That and more next.
The UEFA Champions League. 9 months of heart-stopping, hold-your-breath exhilaration. While Mbappe shines in the city of lights, Benzema's racking up the hat tricks, and the Reds want Mo Magic in Liverpool. This ain't amateur hour. This is the best of the best of the best. This is the UEFA Champions League. Stream every match live on Paramount+.
every single Saturday night and early Sunday morning. If you happen to get it, you can find tomorrow's top 25 today on CBSSports.com. My first edition is in. Obviously, we've got some edits to come with plenty of action, including Texas A&M Miami, the USC Fresno State game, still all, and Utah San Diego State still impacting how things are going to shake out. Now, as it stands, I do believe that number 11 Michigan State, gone
all the way out.
You beat 2 MAC teams, and then in your first test, granted on the road against Washington, they had a good charge late. They fell behind early. They end up losing that game. And so, let's see, final score 39-28. I think that Michigan State does not have the quality wins to be able to remain in the top 25. However, my question is, who else is out if you were trying to make room for a team like Kansas? And who else do you two, I want to hear from y'all first. Who else do you two think should be in the mix for those spots in the top 25?
Can we first offer a little bit of evidence to show just how bad Michigan State actually played while this game was actually a game? Because the final score is quite deceiving, in my opinion, right? Washington housed these guys.
Yeah.
I pulled this stat off Twitter, and I should have linked it, but Washington gained 322 of a possible 323 yards in the first half. Literally, like, they kicked a field goal one time. Michigan State's defense is hot garbage against anybody who can pass, which will be hidden at times in the Big Ten, but not all the time. And Washington just carved them up. So
somebody said Michigan State's overrated. Somebody was out here.
My radio guy. He said, "Hey, I think we might suck."
I was like, I think we should maybe lock up Washington -3.5 because I think this Michigan team is not fixed all the way on defense. But who am I? But right, just a vibes guy over here.
I want to gloat a little bit speaking along those lines, that shit, because you mentioned it on the show. I mentioned it in the preseason. We were doing win totals. Like, just don't really think that this defense is any good. Don't think it's fixed. I had some Sparty fans in my mentions the last few weeks talking about how they'd only allowed 13 points in their first 2 games, against Western Michigan and Akron.
Yeah, so I agree with you all, Sparty, all the way out. So my next question is, who else might be out of the top 25? Because you've got a Florida team that struggled with
Get them out.
Yeah, Florida does not look like a top 25 team. Wake does not look like a top 25 team at this point to me. Like, they're not playing good enough defense, and the offense is not cruising like it was.
Get A&M out of there, even if they hold on.
I mean, that's the thing. I don't think you're talking about what deserves to happen. I'm also talking about what I think will happen, right?
Sure.
So, like, what I think will happen is that Florida's win against Utah is just enough to hang inside. They could end up falling out, but you're 2-1.
What if Utah loses? I don't think they're going to. They're up 21 to nothing.
But that's I think that the Utah win is enough weight for Florida to be able to remain in. I think that Pitt, like, you could talk about them being out. Wake, I do have dropping. I think that they will fall to like the very, very edge because there were already some voters that weren't in on Wake Forest. And so if you needed any reason to doubt more, 37-36 when you were a heavy favorite against Liberty, that is a reason to doubt even more. But, outside of that,
BYU, and they got housed.
That kind of leads to what I was going to ask you guys, because here's one for you. Like,
Baylor
Oregon was ranked.
The floor. Baylor is the floor for BYU, and I think I've got Baylor dropping 2 spots to 19. I've got BYU dropping from 12 to 18, and then I've got Oregon's jump from 25 to 17. So basically, we've got this log jam of Oregon, BYU, Baylor, where it's too early in the season for you not to look past the head-to-head results when you start to stack those teams up.
But do you have Washington ranked?
Yes, 15.
All right, because that's what I was going to say. Like, with Oregon was ranked 25 last week, after, beating, who was it? It was Eastern Washington. After getting crushed by Georgia, which I think we've learned we shouldn't hold against anybody, but still. So they beat Eastern Washington, they beat BYU, but Washington has wins against Kent State, Portland State, and then just beat Michigan State, who's a higher ranked team than BYU. So it's like they both have to be ranked. Kansas needs to be ranked. We're only getting rid of Michigan State so far. And it's like, where do we make the room?
Right. And that's like the rank Kansas. That you're right. That's a very, very fair argument. I just don't know when I'm trying to project this thing where they're going to break in. That's where you needed Florida to lose. You needed Texas to lose. You needed, Pitt with its third string quarterback not to be able to actually have a 21-point win at Western Michigan. There's just a huge log jam. We're like, so what's our Texas A&M? Texas A&M
17-9.
Oh my God, another field goal. Oh my God.
You won't believe it, but Miami kicked another field goal.
Another field goal. Like,
you know what? Screw it.
If
Miami
he would just be like,
gone.
we're not going to play the game. I just want to recruit. Okay.
This is so
Get Miami out. Get Miami out of the top 25. Put Kansas.
Miami does not look like a ranked team. Like, I do think at some point they will be a ranked team. I do think that they're going to win the Coastal still, probably. But right now, they don't look like a ranked football team. Honestly, A&M doesn't either, but that's just whatever. Okay, here's a couple more for you.
App State. You've got
App State should be in.
Yeah.
Washington State,
but like App State has a loss to an unranked North Carolina. So it's like, if you're going to bring one, are you going to bring both of them? And again, who are you throwing out?
But that loss was in overtime.
No, it wasn't.
And it also beat.
Nah, baby. There were 124 points in regulation.
That's right. It had an overtime score, but it was in regulation. But I mean, they beat Texas A&M, and now Texas A&M's turning around beating the number 13 team in the country. App State deserves to be ranked. I mean, like, Florida does not deserve to be ranked anymore. We talked about that a little bit. I think if you got rid of Florida, it won't happen because they're 18 and they won, and voters are just going to keep them where they are.
No, it's the Utah win. As long as Utah, because like if you're going at just 3 data points, then that Utah win holds a little bit of weight. But I'm with you. Like Florida, I mean, even the biggest Florida fan that we work with mentioned in the workroom tonight, it was like, Florida should fall out. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Florida does not look like a top 25 team, but I'm not giving my opinion here.
Why is Florida ranked over the Noles?
Because of the Utah win.
Yeah, but LSU won tonight, and they beat previously unranked Ole Miss. Florida beat Utah, who has beaten nobody else so far this year, and looked terrible at home losing Kentucky. FSU went on the road, lost their – I mean, we'll do Noles to go on Monday, I would guess, but lost their quarterback, lost their best defensive player, lost their best offensive lineman, already didn't have their best tackle, didn't even fly with them. Like, Florida should not be ranked over FSU. And I'm going to catch heat in the comments because I'm a Nole, et cetera, et cetera. But, like, how?
Minnesota at 3-0. Unfortunately,
Minnesota hasn't played anybody, though.
Yeah.
So it's like, I get it. Like, they've dominated.
3-0. Washington State.
3 group of 5 wins.
Washington State beat Wisconsin in Madison.
Yeah.
And they did not have a letdown today. They actually took care of business against Colorado State. So I think they have a better case.
Washington State has a better case.
Yes, than Minnesota.
Yes. Although I do think sometimes we spend too much time paying attention to the teams that you did beat rather than how you played against the team that you played. And in that respect, Minnesota has just beaten the piss out of everybody its face. So in that angle, it should be ranked, but I can see why it's not going to be.
Also, there are a lot of realities where App State does not have just 1 loss. There are a lot of realities where App State has 2 losses, but how blessed are we to live in the reality where this went down today in Boone.
We'll see. See how many Troy rushes here.
2 seconds left
to try to knock one down. 3-man rush. Chase going to step up in the pocket. Sets. Throws high into the air. It's up for grabs. It is juggle. Miracle part 2. It's miracle part 2. Oh, they did it. Oh my gosh. Don't you do it, baby.
That is courtesy of Adam B. Witten and the Varsity App State on a App State had a 17-play drive in the fourth quarter that ate 9 minutes off the clock and got inside the 3-yard line for what should have been or could have been the game-winning score. Chase Bryce's pass into the end zone on 4th and goal from the 2 is incomplete. Eerily reminiscent in the very same building of him missing a wide open man on a 2-point conversion that could have been a walk-off win against North Carolina. So Troy gets the ball inside their own 5-yard line. They opt to take a safety, not unheard of. You're up 4. You take the safety, you pin the other team the other way. You dare them to be able to march down the field. And then Chase Bryce delivers a heave that doesn't quite make it to the end zone, but is deflected down, scooped up, and run into the end zone for a walk-off 32-28 win for the App State Mountaineers. Again, App State's going to win this game. 17-play drive. Ate up almost the whole fourth quarter. Everything was going their way until it wasn't, and then it was again. Troy had the lead early. Troy, I thought, brought incredible effort. Remember, they were 12-point underdogs in the game.
Didn't have their best player, by the way.
Didn't have their best defender. Yeah.
Carlton Marshall, who makes like 1 million tackles a game for them, didn't play.
Yeah, he was going to break records with his next tackle as one of the all-time leading tacklers. Yet, App State might be on one. I mentioned all this week after in the wake of the Texas A&M game, I said, look, here's the deal. App State's going to put the photos and the pictures of that win all over their facility. And it's, going to go down as a memorable moment. But what's important here is what's at hand, which is App State, a program that just joined the FBS less than a decade ago, has an opportunity, if they can win the Sun Belt, to be able to make it to a New Year's Six bowl game. If you got that win at Texas A&M and you are the Sun Belt champion and you are limiting your loss column, you've got a chance to play in one of the biggest stages that college football has. You just don't need to go screw it up. They almost screwed it up with a conference loss to Troy here on the following Saturday. So App State is on one, but they can't play with fire like this again. But if they continue with this kind of momentum and magic, we could see the Mountaineers become one of the great stories in college football. We could see the Mountaineers challenge, especially given Cincinnati struggling with Miami of Ohio early on, given Houston's loss to Kansas. You start to look elsewhere among those group of 5 teams. Who else is going to be in the mix besides along with App State? So I think that for the Mountaineers, an incredible moment. Boone is to be in Boone right now would be a life-altering, mind-altering, sure, but life-altering experience. What'd you make of the incredible moment there for the Mountaineers?
I mean, if you're Clemson, do you trade DJU for Chase Bryce right now?
Oh my gosh.
Who thought we'd ever be asking that question with a semi-serious meaning behind it?
Do I get to run an offense that's not Clemson's offense?
See that?
Yeah.
Clemson's offense is not impressive, and I don't know if it will be this season.
Yeah, I mean, look, Chase Bryce played well for them. I thought Troy played really well, by the way. That's to go in there. Troy might be pretty good. Let's to me, and I know this is more of an app question, but Troy's good enough to, if they play like this on offense, if Watson gives them what he gave them today on the road, they're good enough to hang with anybody in the Sun Belt. Now, Marshall's A game may be better than anybody's A game, but Marshall does not bring their A game very often. So,
Troy played tighter to Ole Miss than Georgia Tech did.
By a lot.
Yeah, it was 21-10 against Ole Miss for Troy, and Ole Miss just went into Bobby Dodd and blanked Georgia Tech 42-0.
They should be winding this clock, by the way. Oh, it's a flag. All right. I love in this game just seeing these guys. Whoo, man, they're just waving all the runners home, winding that clock. Sorry, just rooting on our lock infinity. Look, so App is just a good football team, and the Sun Belt this year is really exciting. They do have some limitations on offense, and I thought Troy was able to exploit some of those. Number one, if you look at this, like last week, App really couldn't throw. The only week they could throw was against North Carolina, which we could probably put together a couple drives against the Tar Heels secondary. They lost their 3 best receivers off last year's squad. I don't think they have that same explosive potential that they had last year. They're a pretty good defensive team. I think their offensive line is pretty good. But Troy was able to basically neutralize some of those receivers for them, and that allowed them to stay in this game and have a chance to win the game deep into the ball game. By the way, did you know that John Summerall, their head coach for Troy, was a player on the Kentucky team that lost to LSU in the Bluegrass Miracle? That's like
So
kind
would
of
you say
insane.
it was his fault?
I mean, if this happens again, it's a trend. So, or
Is he cursed? Is that what we're saying?
Bud Elliott says John Summerall, Troy head coach, has loser DNA.
No, I mean those guys are they're playing so much better than they did last year, and I think they had quit on that coach last year. So, new coach, new life.
Okay, so it was so interesting to me that BYU versus Oregon received no conversation on the Locks pod, and that is our fault. Like I will totally own that. We went through like, all right, any big game picks. Like we continued to come back, and the fact that no one had any pick or even thought about it only speaks to how uncertain we were about BYU specifically, and as it turns out, no Gunnar Romney, no Puka Nacua, down 2 defensive linemen, and how uncertain we were about Oregon, which what do we do about this Ducks team that got worked by Georgia? And then, yeah, of course, you ran it up against Eastern Washington. Well, I'll turn to Matt Preem from 24/7 Sports because he brought something out that I think that is worth mentioning. The first team offense, just the starters, scored on 13 straight drives after being held without a touchdown against the Bulldogs in the opener. That was 7 straight scoring drives in the win against Eastern Washington before they were pulled, and then 6 consecutive scoring drives to start the 41-20 win against BYU. The narrative, the story that is being built is that this Bo Nix-led Oregon offense has found its footing. Do you buy it?
Well, a little bit, yes. Okay, yeah, let's discuss then. Good. Tom first.
I mean, Eastern Washington. Cool. I mean, great. You're Oregon. You should be putting up a bunch of points on Eastern Washington. And in this game, like BYU is missing a couple top players on both sides of the ball, which impacts it. I think this is no offense to Matt, who's, does a great job at Ducks 24/7, but they don't know Bo Nix yet. This is just Bo Nix. He's going to have really good games. He's going to have really bad games. It's up and down, up and down. And I don't think what he did against BYU today means that I'm saying it's like the offense was never as bad as it looked against Georgia. That's just what Georgia does. So now it looks competent in games against BYU and Eastern Washington. It doesn't mean it's trending in the right direction. It just means that it's back to what it always was. It's just not playing Georgia anymore. But this is a team, I mean, to Oregon's credit, I'm not trying to take away anything that they did today because they played outstanding today. They kicked BYU's butt. It was 38-7 after the third quarter. The fourth quarter kind of made this game look closer than it actually was. But I still don't really buy into Oregon's offense as anything special, though.
I think it is a pretty good offense that has the ability to really house some teams who don't match up very well with it. They actually moved the ball on Georgia for a couple of drives while that game was still like competitive before it was garbage time. And they didn't do anything with those drives, right? Like they ended because they would pressure Bo Nix and he would throw it away. And I agree with Tom that you really can't take the Eastern Washington, whatever, Little Sisters of the Poor type thing for any kind of statistical measure. But Bo Nix, I think if you protect him, does have some talent. Like he does have a good arm. He can move around and buy himself a little bit of extra time. He's pretty mobile. So I'm not really sure how many teams in that league are going to get a whole lot of pressure on Bo Nix. That is a pretty good offensive line. We discussed this, by the way, on the Wednesday show when we did a little bit of the sort of like preview segment. We're like, look, at a certain point, Baylor at the end of that Baylor BYU game said, we're not going to throw the ball. We're going to just push you guys around. And how difficult it was to face Baylor and Oregon's offensive lines back to back for that BYU defensive line. And honestly, like BYU got pushed around up front by Oregon's front here. And so Oregon, I think, is pretty physical and can be a good offense under Kenny Dillingham this year. Like he's still learning. It's the first time I think he's called plays solo, and they'll learn. And I don't really think their receivers are great, but who's pressuring them in that league? Stanford? No. Oregon State? Probably not. Utah could.
Washington
could. Yeah.
That defense was getting after Thorne today. And that was the kind of thing where I was wondering, what happens when we change our mentality? Like when Kalen DeBoer comes in and we're no longer the defensive coordinator, do they still have that edge? And I mean, they were playing at home. They were fired up. We'll see if it's able to be sustained across an entire season, but thought the Huskies pass rush and pressure looked good today.
Yeah, that's a good team, man. Like they're not going to go undefeated, but like that's a pretty good team. They can give a lot of people some problems.
Also, like Michael Penix. Where the hell did that come from? Like, I know he had moments in 2020 with Indiana where he was doing some really special stuff, but there was also some doy plays that were mixed in there pretty often. The Michael Penix we've seen so far this year with Washington just looks legitimately good.
If we're going to talk about the Kansas coach just winning every stop he goes, Kalen DeBoer's offenses put up points everywhere he goes. Like they just score points, and Penix seems like there's no hesitation. He knows exactly where he needs to be going with the ball on every play. I'd love to sit in the meeting with DeBoer and just like understand how he installs this and how he teaches these guys, because like this is early in the season and these guys are just clicking and it's cool to watch.
Yeah, I was thinking that I need to start to get in on the personnel of these receivers. It seems like the ball is being dispersed to a lot of different players, and I don't have a good beat on
I do have a good story.
That room. Okay, let's hear it.
All right, so I was not on like rankings committee at the time, obviously, because I was still at SB Nation. But my last year at SB Nation, the Houston Nike event, I thought Jalen Polk, this kid from Lufkin, Texas, balled out. I was like, and I'm a Florida guy, but like I was doing all the national stuff for SB back then. He was killing it, Houston Nike. I was like, damn, this kid's pretty good. Like, I made a note to check on him, and then he broke his leg as a senior. So then he was recovering. He ended up signing with Texas Tech. And then I think he transferred to Washington. And I was like, that's a great get for Washington. Like people, I mean, I'm a Florida guy who saw a Texas kid one time at a camp. I thought he was really good at Houston Nike camp. He has not a whole lot of high school film. And then he goes and Jimmy Lake just doesn't believe in playing offense, apparently. So he kind of just mired there for 2 years. And then tonight I was like, that's the kid I remember who was just mossing dudes. Okay, like this is kind of cool to watch. And McMillan or what's his name? They got some nice weapons there.
Yeah, Jalen McMillan. Yeah.
Did RG3 really call it Big Penix Energy?
Yes, he called it Big Penix Energy. I love RG3 in the booth. He just brings his own Big Penix energy to the booth. It's different, changes things up. Love the vibes.
DGAF.
No, yeah.
RG3 DGAF.
The snap infraction he called premature snapulation. Like he's just wonderful in the booth.
Incredible.
Is he still with Mark Jones?
Yes. Oh, they're great.
Okay. Yeah. So Mark Jones eggs him on like crazy. And I think RG3 is pretty creative. But like at times, I'm like, RG3 is a smart guy. And when he actually talks about like analyzing the game, he does a pretty good job of it. Like you can tell the guy actually watches the film the broadcaster is supposed to watch and see it. And sometimes he starts to go into a point and Mark Jones is like trying to egg him on to say something else, just catchphrasing. I was like let RG3 do catchphrases, but also give good analysis. But the example that sticks out in my mind was the FSU Wake game last year when he's like, who will Mike Norvell give the rose to? He's making it like a big bachelor thing. And I'm like, it's the third quarter. It's very clear the other guy has a foot that doesn't work right now. So there will be no other rose given, right? Like, can we drop let's get away from what we're doing. But it was his first year in the booth, I think. So, yeah, he does a really good job. That guy's a rising star.
So we haven't really dug into 41-12 Penn State's win at Auburn, but We did on social media. Y'all did a good job of clipping and sharing and discussing how important it was for Auburn to have the best running back in the game, that for Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter to be able to be the strength here. And sure enough, it's Nick Singleton, who after going for 10 carries, 179 yards and 2 touchdowns, had a real letdown of a performance with only 124 yards and 2 touchdowns on a similar 10 carries. The dude, like Allen, looked good too. Tom, you had the write-up for CBSSports.com in which you sort of highlighted both these young running backs, where finally, when we blamed the offensive line, we blamed the running back room. The ground game for Penn State is consistent, explosive. The group is deep. Sean Clifford, shockingly, with all the support, doesn't turn the ball over as much. Mitchell Tinsley was really good. You were still able to hit everything you needed to. Red zone execution was so much better. Before we get to the Auburn side of things, Tom, Penn State, we're shifting Michigan State down. Penn State is much closer. Do you think Penn State is much closer to Ohio State and Michigan than the rest of the pack in the entire Big Ten?
Yes.
Yeah.
No doubt.
They're the third best team in that division. That prediction of mine is actually looking like it's going to be right. It's what stood out today. And again, I think the 41-12 score, like Penn State goes on the road and beats Auburn 41-12. If you're not paying close attention, that's probably going to raise your eyebrows a lot. Like, wow, a little too much compared to just how bad Auburn might be. But I think that for Penn State, more than the score, what I took away is kind of what you were talking about is, first of all, Sean Clifford is mobile again. Like in that opener against Purdue, after he took that hit on his knee that he has the brace on, he was a statue in the pocket. And Sean Clifford's strength is not standing in the pocket being a passer, especially behind that offensive line. So he looked healthier today. He was able to move around. They were getting him on rollouts. He was able to scramble for free yards when they were there. And I think that's huge for the Penn State offense. I think having those running backs in Singleton and Katon Allen, who are guys that could, when the hole's not there and the offensive line's not doing a great job, they could still make something happen. And then when they do get the blocks, they make something really big happen. Like Singleton had the 2 rushes of over 50 yards today, I can't remember the year, but I remember the broadcast saying he's the first Penn State running back to have 2 carries of at least 40 yards in the same game since Larry Johnson. And then, you think of the other guys that have played there since Larry Johnson. It's like, wow, it's been that long.
Had a guy named Saquon.
Yeah. So it's like, it's pretty good. So like for me, the Penn State offense today looked its most complete that I've seen it in a while. And if that offense shows up, it's not on Ohio State's level close, but it's kind of on Michigan's level as far as what they can do when they play like that. And I think that is huge for them. And defensively, they were very solid against an Auburn team that just, like you kind of touched on it. This was an ABC kind of game as far as you break it down cliches, like red zone. All right. Penn State, 5 red zone possessions, scores on all 5, 4 touchdowns. The only time it settles for the field goal is like in the fourth quarter at the very end when it's up 38-12. Auburn, 4 red zone possessions, 2 field goals, an interception,
and turnover on
downs. And then overall, Auburn, 4 turnovers in the game. Penn State, no turnovers. Like if you look at the box score and you take all that stuff out, like it looks like it was a very close game as far as total yards per play, all that kind of stuff. But it was a blowout because Auburn can't throw, Auburn can't run, Auburn really can't do anything.
Yeah, I agree with Tom on that. I mean, I went and got my laptop pretty quickly in watching this thing because I was watching. I was like, Auburn is getting by on like heroics, third down type amazing scrambles or unbelievable catches, whereas Penn State is just methodically marching on these guys pretty repeatedly. I thought Penn State looked well coached. Like very few mistakes. You saw why Sean Clifford plays over Drew Allar in this game, because like the one that stands out to me, he has 12 seconds left. He decides he's going to change the play. Like that's a guy who's like 26 years old now, it seems like, knowing exactly how long it's going to take to change this play. He gets to each of the linemen. He communicates to the back and tight end and to the receivers. And like he even points, you can tell like, hey, this guy's blitzing. You're hot behind him. And he was right. Auburn didn't check out of it because they didn't really have a lot of time because 12 seconds left. Boom, first down. They never looked back. I thought I thought the Penn State's offensive line played well and moved Auburn off the line of scrimmage quite a bit. Like that's new. Penn State has not moved. Again, we think Auburn's defensive line is good. Like we don't know it necessarily because they've played two pretty bad offensive lines in Mercer and San Jose State, but like, I think we have reason to think Auburn has a good D-line, and Penn State moved them today, which was new to me. Mitchell Tinsley is a nice pickup for them in the portal. He doesn't replace Jahan Dotson, but like that helps certainly to get there. And one guy I loved that Penn State had prior was Noah Cain when he was healthy. Like he had great vision and balance and nice patience. And while Singleton is the home run hitter of this group and just has unbelievable speed, like that safety had an angle on him until he did not.
And it was gone.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, that is wild. But Katron Allen down on the goal line, I'm here for that. He has really nice vision and patience, and that little S-wind he hit to score that fourth touchdown was pretty. Like, and that was just understanding where the blocks would be. And I thought Manny Diaz did a nice job calling this game, and it was high risk, high reward at times. But Auburn had a new center. We talked about this really since we got word that Nick Brahms probably was done for the year, and they had A-gap pressure all night on these guys. And it was a nice effort for Penn State. I'm sure we'll probably talk on Monday what it means for Harsin, but
will we talk on Sunday?
Oh, I don't think so. They have they don't have a new AD officially in yet, right?
Does that matter?
The guy cutting the checks is still there. He's fine. No, it's, you mentioned like the coaching of the game too. Like there was a moment early in the game, Penn State's very first possession. I think they were at their own 44. It's like a 4th and 1, and Sean Clifford had taken a huge hit and got like just blown up, and they went for it on the next play in a QB sneak. And there was a whole lot of like, oh, that's a terrible decision to go for it there. Like I saw it on Twitter. And the thing I took away from it was I probably wouldn't have run the QB sneak after the hit Sean Clifford took. But my thought was, man, James Franklin does not think Auburn can move the ball against his team at all. He does not respect his offense at all. He's going for it on 4th and 1 in his own territory on the first possession of the game. And he was right.
Yeah, it's I've got to say that after watching today sort of play out, I don't know if Bud's right about this. I mean, I really don't. I mean, Bud's right about so many things, but after Will Shepherd goes for 10 catches, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns, Bud said that Auburn's got the worst receiving core outside of Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt might be better. I think that now that we've switched over to the A.J. Swan era and Vanderbilt is over by October. 3-1 for the first time in 5 years. Vanderbilt 38, Northern Illinois 28, 24 straight points to close the game. Those of you who were with us, and there were many of you, y'all were coming out the woodworks. We cashed the over by October. Vanderbilt gets it done in DeKalb. Again, it's not Mike Wright. The A.J. Swan era is off and running. 255 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Ray Davis puts up a $116 on the ground. And again, Shepherd was kind of unguardable there in the second half. So, man, it was an exciting day for hashtag Our Doors.
Very proud of our doors.
Swan might be pretty good. I think Barton might have got one there, man. As far as having a QB, like he's got a little something to him. I'm impressed.
Do we know what their travel schedule is?
Oh, Vandy.
If you want to text him.
Well, I sent him.
Why, is he? You think he's still in DeKalb right now? Should I ask him if he wants to come over? Hey, you want to join a live reaction show from my bedroom?
Actually, that would have been the move. He shared the photo of his that awesome jacket that Haley got him, like the retro one, and it looked like he was on the team bus at that point. But I didn't know if they would be flying. They wouldn't bus all the way back to Nashville. Never mind, that was a flight.
It's another SEC team.
Well, it was,
the offense and the defense take a separate PJ.
Okay, well there you go. Yeah,
that's a joke. I really don't think they do, but
I don't know. It's Vanderbilt. Right?
Does Vanderbilt fly private?
No, well,
They fly charter. Do they fly private?
I don't know.
I'm going to say charter.
That's my guess too.
Are we fine? Oh yeah, 17-9. And by the way, Miami was driving. The game ended on a incomplete pass from Tyler, more than less ended with a Tyler Van Dyke attempt on fourth down. But as Miami was driving down 17-9, which reminder is 8 points, technically a 1-score game, I saw the chat popping off. It's like Mario's getting ready to kick the field goal.
Shout out to CFB Connor, who goes, so they're down 8. He goes, do you think if Miami scores here, they'll kick the extra point?
Hey man, Miami fans, I'm sorry, but it's too funny. It's just, it is everything. Like, it's everything that we predicted in like the worst way, right? Like, if all of the Justin Herbert jokes, unfortunately, are coming right back with the way that Tyler Van Dyke, and it's not Tyler Van Dyke's fault. He doesn't have any receivers, and the receivers that were out there were just drops after drop after drop. Still,
Keyshawn Smith, 9 targets, 3 catches. Jacoby George, 5 targets, 3 catches. Michael Redding Jr., 10 targets, 3 catches. Brashard Smith, hey, we got a guy that caught more than half his targets. 3 on 4. Elijah Arroyo, second tight end, 1 on 3.
Meanwhile, in the state of Arizona, Jetfish's Wildcats have just gone up 17-14 on North Dakota State at halftime, while Eastern Michigan just took a 24-14 lead on Arizona State with a minute left in the first half.
I just heard FCS champs. FCS champs. All right, so real quick on Miami, Texas A&M before we get out of here. Again, the game just went final. Texas A&M 17, Miami 9. I've got to figure out. Is Miami still a top 25 team?
They don't have a top 25 resume, that's for sure. Like, they looked good against nobody for 2 weeks. Then they only managed 9 points against Texas A&M. Granted, A&M's got a good defense, so that's not really something they should be punished for. It's just if you take away the brand and the recognition and the preseason expectation, and you just compare what Miami's done to this point to a few of the other teams we've mentioned, no, Miami does not deserve to be ranked, but it will still be ranked. They'll fall into the 20s, but they'll still be ranked.
Right. Bud?
I mean, I would take issue with the idea that they didn't actually look that good against the Golden Eagles Southern Miss. It was a backup quarterback back for Southern Miss, and Miami went into the half very close. They didn't really control the game. They needed a flea flicker to put any kind of distance between themselves and them. They're not playing like a top 25 team.
Kansas has 2 more wins that are more impressive than any win Miami has to this point.
If Kansas played Miami tomorrow, are you taking Kansas?
No, I'm taking Miami.
I'm taking Miami, but Kansas right now, if you're going off resume, deserves to be ranked over Miami.
And my counter would be that Miami just went to Texas A&M without its top receiver, who might be out for a while, so we might have to just factor that into who they are, but without its top receiver, and as a 6-point underdog, lost by 8 and had a chance to tie the game late. Like, played to expectations, at least in that performance. Right? Mm-hmm. That would be the argument for Miami not just being like thrown off the face of the earth at this point, is that you went into a tough environment against a difficult team, you played to expectations, you are going to drop, certainly, but there's no reason that we're going to like fire you into the sun and give you that kind of treatment at this point. Fair?
Well, we could.
So what is the road forward for Miami? Like you mentioned that you think that this is a team that is probably Bud, do you say probably still going to win the Coastal, or you think that could still win the Coastal?
I just think the injuries are racking up pretty hard for Pitt right now, and that's going to bite them. But so Miami has Middle Tennessee next week, who they'll beat, and maybe they'll screw around with them for a little while. Like they'll play with their food, they'll win. Then they host North Carolina, and I think they'll beat North Carolina because I just don't trust North Carolina to get stops against anybody. But then they go to Virginia Tech, which is not super scary. They host Duke, and Duke's massively improved. They go to Virginia. They're going to beat Virginia. Then November 5th, they host FSU, which, again, if Jordan Travis is back by then, which I think he could be, actually, that could be an interesting game because Jordan Travis with this FSU team is playing like a guy who might get drafted, which is kind of crazy to say. And they could beat them in Coral Gables if 13's back. Georgia Tech at Clemson, Pitt to close. That month of November for Miami is going to kind of tell the tale, guys. Either they get it together, they start to function, Van Dyke and these receivers are on the same page, or they're not. If they are, maybe they're 9-3, right? If they're not, I don't know, maybe they're 7-5.
North Carolina, Florida State, and Pitt all being at home. And I'm sorry to be so mean about this, but like in another stadium, in another situation, you would be like, that's awesome. But I mean, I don't know what the home field advantage is outside of like travel. And
they show out for the FSU game. I think that's still a bit of a, I know FSU fans say like it's Seminole Hard Rock Stadium and that it's basically just a neutral site. And it's certainly not like 80-20, but it's probably 60-40, 65-35. I'm sure for Mario that there'll be a lot of guys out there this year. But I agree with you as far as Miami not being a big-time home field advantage for all the games that are not FSU. They don't seem to show up. Like they'll play North Carolina and there'll be 30,000 people in the stands.
But those games also you don't have to leave for. So
sure. The travel aspect's important.
And then if you do at Clemson, I mean, shoot, the way that Clemson's playing right now, who knows what that game's going to look like. Yeah, I guess I'm with you. All right, what about the Texas A&M side of this? Because certainly none of my concerns about Texas A&M's offense seem to be answered or, addressed just with the move from Haynes King to Max Johnson. I mean, this is still a group that needed a short field, just to be able to get a scoring opportunity in the first quarter and needed a lot of Miami offensive struggles to be able to get their 17 points in this game. So, what is the ceiling for Texas A&M moving forward? A group that hosts Arkansas next week, goes to Mississippi State on October 1st, and then to Alabama on the 8th.
And that Arkansas game is a neutral site. It's that Arlington. Play it in and we'll tailgate in the parking lot in front of a Walmart thing.
I think that game's huge for their season.
Yes. Does A&M win any of the next 3 games? Arkansas, at Mississippi State, at Bama. No buys in there.
I think they could beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State just lost to LSU. But I think next week I feel like is a fulcrum game. Like if they win that game, they beat Mississippi State, and then they'll probably lose to Alabama, but they'll still probably do pretty well. If they lose that game, they could just as easily lose to Mississippi State and then lose to Alabama, and everything could spiral quick.
Yeah, I think they beat Arkansas. It's possible. So do you think that Bobby Petrino spent all offseason studying Barriota's defense and just was like,
yes,
I've got a 15 to 25 plays right here that beat this thing. I've been around this game long enough that you show me that kind of a defense, I'm going to know exactly what's going to beat it. And he coached up his offense to be able to go and take care of business.
Bobby knows how to get an FBS job again. And it's not going to be winning games at Missouri State. It's going to be beating Arkansas. Yes.
Okay. So we're not going to overreact to the Missouri State Arkansas game. That was a one-off.
I mean, yeah, and it could also just be, again, Arkansas's got a huge rivalry game against Texas A&M waiting next week. So they might have just been caught sleeping there early in the game.
Arkansas has been pretty banged up. I imagine they didn't do a whole lot of hitting in practice this week. Just, thinking about how those last couple games for them went, just like they got a lot of guys who've been dinged. My thought is like LSU has better pass rushers than Mississippi State does, or excuse me, than Texas A&M does. And like, we'll have to see how A&M secondary looks. I think LSU's defense might be better than the Aggies defense right now, just from what I've seen. I think Matt House is doing a great job with that LSU group. I'm not real high on this LSU offense, but A&M will have to score a little bit, I think, when they play Arkansas. Because I do trust Kendall Browell's teams to go ahead and score a little bit. And I think this Arkansas offensive line can push around A&M a little bit up front. And we'll see. Like, Arkansas has given them problems before.
Yeah. Truth. All right. Anything else we want to hit before we get out of here?
Do you think this Iowa-Nevada game is ever going to end?
I don't know.
I need it to go the distance. If this gets canceled, season win total bets are done.
For Nevada.
Yes.
The whole, like, all of them.
Right, because they have to play 12 games.
Mm.
So those of us who sought it out and realized what was happening and snagged those under 5.5s back in like May, all that work is for naught. Yeah, exactly. Also, if you have a 4-game Iowa bet,
touchdowns.
I'm in the Caesars contest, right? And I think I actually have.
They don't care what they're doing to us. Make them play in the Thunder. Who cares?
I have Iowa. If the game doesn't go final, it doesn't count. It's just you don't get to do a replacement pick.
One player gets struck by lightning. Is it that big of a deal? Really? Like, I mean, is that not just kind of like natural selection in a way?
And if Iowa covers, I might be 6-2, or I would be 6-2, and I mean that would make me probably the overall leader
on the locks.
No, for Caesars contest.
Oh,
so I would be very interested in this game finishing. Like I'm.
I mean, what's important is that Lock Infinity won.
Yes,
it was not close.
Without a doubt. In the words of Tom Fornelli, and there was never a doubt. 17-9. Come on. Nearly gave us 17 points of wiggle room. Let's go.
That's the thing. Like, we didn't even need Mario to be Mario. He could have gone for a few touchdowns and we'd have been fine. Yes, exactly. The God is mad at Iowa for scoring touchdowns and he's throwing bolts of lightning at them for doing it. Like, you're Iowa. This is not what you're supposed to be doing. Show some respect for your heritage.
Nevada and Iowa, who knows if it's going to be over. We've still got, let's see, Utah looks like they're probably going to hold on for a win. It's halftime with USC with the 21-10 Fresno lead over Fresno State. Who knows if that one ends up being an upset? We'll be sticking around for that. Address it on Monday's show. Oh, yeah. So Brian Harsin, you think no? What was the other one? Oh, when does Jeff Collins get fired?
Does Georgia Tech care? Because if they don't, they're not going to fire him until the season's over. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what the situation is going to be there and how thirsty they are for a coaching search right now.
Did you see the David Hale stat?
No.
Yes.
Georgia Tech has been outscored 183-10 in its last 4 games against FBS opponents. Now, I think a couple of those are Clemson and Georgia, right? And then today, Ole Miss.
So like an average score of 45 to 2.5.
That'll hurt your feelings.
All right. So who is the apparel? Georgia Tech is obviously they're not Russell Athletic.
They're not Russell anymore, right? They're Adidas, aren't they?
Adidas.
I think they're Adidas, yeah.
Because that's the Dion connection to Auburn, right? Because Dion's got an Under Armour connect.
Oh.
And like Dion's in with Under Armour. Auburn is Under Armour.
Do you really think Auburn's going to hire Dion?
No, I don't.
Is that because it's Auburn?
I think Auburn is going to hire somebody. Auburn's got a lot of money to spend. There's candidates out there who have
Urban Meyer.
Yeah. Threes.
That no, I think that they will swing at Urban Meyer, and if not, go get Hugh Freeze.
Yeah. Saying it now. Urban Meyer's coaching Auburn next year.
But Dion makes sense because Auburn is an Under Armour school.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, Florida State would love to see Deion get hired. Mike Norvell would love to see Deion get a job at Auburn and just get that out of the minds of Florida State fans.
Yes.
At least for 3 to 4 years. I mean, listen, I was happy for Mike Norvell on Friday night. That man looked like he was like, whew, cannot believe we got out of that one.
But like, if Auburn does hire Deion, can't we just think of like the Aflac commercials with Saban and Deion in them, and like the next level that those will go to?
Oh, it's gonna be amazing. People will be calling and canceling Aflac for both fan bases. Like, no,
I'm in. I want it.
Did that goat say Gap?
I'm in. Give me Iron Bowl Aflac, the Aflac Iron Bowl. Saban versus Deion. Nothing but colored blazers.
Auburn should hire the Boz, but as the sheriff of Fansville. That he's got a coaching character.
We will recap some of the later night action and anything else that we were able to review on Sunday and Monday morning on Mondays upon further review, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Make sure that you are tuned in, and you can follow him on Twitter at BudElliott3. You can follow him at Tom Fernelli. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.